All right. Good evening, Jon and Judy. I see you guys are playing musical chairs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you caught us.
Yeah. So how are we doing tonight?
Excellent.
All right. Well, it's Friday night. Do we got any tournaments tomorrow?
Nope. Weekend's
do.
off.
No, I got my got one tomorrow, and then I get my first weekend off in like a month next weekend.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Are you doing Messalonsky?
Nope, I'm gonna miss that one. Just I don't know. I've been traveling and doing a bunch of stuff this whole month, so I'm kind of just gonna take a break that weekend and just hang out with the family and do some family stuff.
Yep.
So, but then after that, I got like tournaments every weekend for like 2 months. So it's a busy summer for me.
Yeah.
Right.
So, all right. Well, we know why you guys are on the show. We can see it there behind you. But before we can get into that, we need to talk about who you are, just in case no one knows who you are. It's the first time you're on the dark water. So we're gonna start with Judy, Jon. I know you. You know, she said that you're the one I'm supposed to talk to, but I want to talk to her right now. Who are you, Judy? How did you get in kayak fishing?
I'm Judy Richardson. I've been doing it for 5 years. Basically, I grew up in Minnesota. I always loved freshwater fishing. And Jon and I used to freshwater together, and then he jumped ship and went to the saltwater. So I needed something to do to stay in the freshwater. So one of my son's friends started a kayak league, and I joined that. And I just got hooked ever since.
Okay. Jon, how'd she pull you back into the freshwater?
If I wanted to spend time with my wife, that is what I had to do. I had to try kayak bass fishing. I supported her for the first, I think, 2 years. This is my third year or fourth year?
This is your third.
Third year, and I absolutely love it. And although I say I would never see her if I wasn't kayak fishing, we never see each other on the water anyways.
I'm about to say, I didn't see you guys together at all the whole weekend.
As soon as that trailer gets dipped, she somehow manages to be gone before I can come back and say, where are you going? She's gone. We just don't fish together. It's hilarious, but we ride in together and we leave together.
You guys sound more like friends than married couple.
We've been married a long time.
Okay, cool. Where do you guys reside at now? Are you guys in the Northeast? Is that why we saw you there?
Yeah.
Okay. What part of the Northeast are you in?
We're in New Hampshire.
Okay, so you're New Hampshire. So I imagine you guys are gonna be doing the Winnie. I'm not even pronounce it because I'll butcher it.
Winnipesaukee.
Yeah, Winnipesaukee. Yeah,
Right.
That's a tough place. It's on my bucket list. I'm gonna do it this year. But last time I was there, it broke my heart. But yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it just a little bit. I'm gonna talk about because you guys, you place first on Sunday. You place sixth. You guys are like a power couple in the kayak bass fishing community now. So we're gonna go with that just for a second because it's my show and I get to make the rules. I want to know like kind of dynamics. I mean, obviously you travel together. We already know you guys don't fish together, but I mean, do you guys plan these, like when you guys get together and you start planning these trips, do you guys look at maps together? Do you guys discuss this? Is it competition? Is it like, I want the first place check and you can take the sixth place check? Like how does this relationship work before we actually get to the lake? I mean, how competitive? Because that's one of the things I get very, I'm like, should I bring my wife into my world? Should I let her go on these trips? Because my wife is highly competitive. Like, we used to work out together, and we had to stop working out together because it became a chance. Like, I don't know if I can stay with you if you're gonna rub it in my face every time you beat me in a workout. So I've been very hesitant to ask if she wants to come into the fishing community because all it takes is one good win, and I might regret it for the rest of my life. You know what I mean?
That's funny.
It goes back and forth. We do a lot of mapping before. Like we'll pull up on Google Earth. I'll look at old fishing tournaments. We'll look at results of old tournaments, YouTube videos. Like this tournament, we were really looking for shoals. I found some down south. He found some up north. We figured they'd be spawning, but I knew that the bass tournaments were going to be coming along and the bass boats would just scoop up the spawning beds. Yeah. So I didn't even fish beds at all, not even pre-fishing, because I knew that could disappear really quick.
Judy, you gave me like this false sense of like hope. Because day one, I met you guys at the launch, and you're right. Like, I don't know where Jon went, but I was trailing behind Judy a little bit because we were heading the same direction. And not even like 100, 200 feet. Like, she just hooks into like an 18-inch off the docks or something like that in front of this little boy who was fascinated by the whole event. And I'm like, well, damn, maybe there are fish in this lake, and it's going to be a good day. boy, was I wrong, because when I got to my spot, it just wasn't as exciting. But I mean, like it appeared like it was gonna be a good day. I would say day one, right?
Yeah, I got that one right there. It was on a rock pile. It wasn't on the docks. It was on the rocks coming off the shore.
Okay.
And then I got a couple more by some small islands way like 4 miles down south. And I got one rock pile out in the middle. So I had fish, but they were really spread out.
Right.
I had shallower water. I was just casting into it. If I hit a bed, it was by accident. But
yeah,
that was kind of my pattern. And then day 2, I tried some new stuff and I completely fell apart. I got small fish. I fell out of my kayak.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that a little bit.
It grenaded. But
Definitely talk about that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, what was your guys' experiences going into Candlewood? Because I had none. That was my first time there. And and people told me it was a highly pressured lake, and I thought, I live in New York, and you guys been to Cayuga, and place, some of the places I fished. And, I thought those were pressured lakes until I got to Candlewood, and I saw like just a new level. I mean, I just wasn't expecting it. When people tell you that, then you actually see how many boats are on the water, and and how many tournaments are taking place, and especially when they were spawning, and how many fish are getting. I tell everyone, it's like you could not prepare. Like, you'd have a good day on this day, and if you went there the next day thinking it was going to be the same thing, that you thought you had a pattern, no, it's gone. Like whatever you thought, like every day was just different for me. Like as far as and that was one of the things that bit me in the ass on Saturday, was just like I had a good day pre-fishing Friday, because the first day on Thursday I just covered a lot of water, and I kind of decided like I'm kind of getting what these things are doing. I was kind of like you, Jude. I was finding them out a little deeper, just like kind of fishing blind, but catching them on like some of those beds you really couldn't see compared to like the highly visible ones. And then so Friday, I decided what water I was going to fish, and I went there and I really fished in those areas. I'm like, oh man, I got a pattern. I had like 88 inches in like an hour and a half. I'm like, I can work with this. I'm gonna leave this alone, because if I don't, I'm gonna abuse my areas. And then come day one of the tournament, I'm like, everything that I thought I had was gone. And then when 7 o'clock and they released those the hounds, the big boat guys, you can just hear them coming from Squat's Pond. You can just hear, like, I don't know, in my mind I heard like a gun go off, and then I just heard, and it just boats everywhere. They come into my area, and they come in fast, and like 6 of them were like, if it was like enemy approaching like the shores, it would have been terrifying. They came in, they just spread out in like these great crazy formation, and started taking everything that you wanted. But it was just a tough highly pressured lake that I just wasn't really prepared for. Like, what was kind of your experience with that lake, with everything? Because I don't know if you guys have ever fished it before.
I didn't feel that much pressure, because where I was, I ran into bass boats, but I wasn't where the majority of the boats were. Like Saturday morning when I went to my spots, there was a bass boat on each one. So I was kind of like, I needed to find something else. So then I found another pattern, and I actually had a bass boat come up to me on one of the shores, and I had already got 5 fish, and I asked how they were doing, and they said horrible. They weren't catching anything, and they had a spinnerbait and a crankbait tied on. I had a Ned rig. I cast it out right in front of them, and I got a 20-inch smallie, and they were just like, oh boy. So that was just kind of like, they were doing more a moving bait. I was doing Ned rig, and I fished the Ned rig the whole time, and I caught every fish on a Ned rig. I tried other stuff, and just nothing worked. But
yeah, it's funny you say that, because that was kind of like,
they're fast. They don't stay in one spot and fish something slow. And
yeah, that was kind of like my learning experience, because I tried my hardest on day one to fish chatterbaits and a lipless, and I tried everything, and it all failed me. And I'm like, well, I should probably change something up if I'm going to fish day 2. And so I'm like, I put on a Ned rig. I pretty much I took the rods, but I had no plan on using them. And I Ned rig. That was it. Just for 8 hours, the slowest, most boringest way I've ever fished in my life. And it gave me it got me in the top 20. And I'm like, there's something to be said about fishing slow with, baits like the Ned rig. It's boring. There's no instant gratification. There's no, you know what I mean? Like, but it works. You'll get 5 bites. I guarantee it.
It works.
What about you, John? What was your experience like?
My experience was basically what you just said. Thursday, we were pre-fishing. We had most of the day Thursday. I waypointed a pile of spots, and in each waypoint, I was making note of how big the fish that I caught was on that spot, so that when it came time, game day, I was going to be ready, and I was going to go right to the biggest fish that I caught. That happened to be almost 4 miles from, Squats. And I got down there. Nobody else was down there. And the fish weren't down there. So it was kind of a comedy show. But I always keep my chin up. I have a really positive attitude when it comes to fishing. And so instead of worrying about there's no fish, now I got to run to my next spot, I actually worked that whole area with a Ned rig, real slow, dragging it around. I didn't catch anything. Then I went to top water, and I actually caught one on top water. And then I moved away from that first spot and actually went further away to spots I'd never been to before. And yeah, I had another one follow the top water, but it didn't commit. And then it took off back down again. I saw where it went, threw a Ned rig right at it, caught it. And that was in 1975. And yeah, it was just kind of a magical. Everything that I did seemed to work, or if it didn't work, I didn't let it bring me down. I would just keep pushing forward and, going to my spots and progressions, and then go to the best spots first and then go downhill. And then some of the downhill spots, which the docks were my least productive spot, turned into the game winner. That was my best spots, docks.
Yeah, my experience was nothing like that, John. Nothing like it. There was no topwater bite. There was no chatterbait. There was nothing but a Ned rig bite. It had to be a Ned rig. It had to be.
Yeah.
It had to be a green pumpkin with like a chartreuse dipped. It had to be something weird and like boring and something. I just was not proud about throwing it, but it was the only thing I could find that could work.
Right.
And then I don't know. It was tough for me to figure it out until once you figure something out like that, like then it's like, oh man, like this is it. Like, cause I started fishing like rock pot. Like if I found rocks, I just sat there and I just fished the Ned rig the whole time. And that's where I would produce bites. I didn't get anything incredibly huge, but I was able to put up limits and stuff like that compared to like what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do was fish all that grass. I mean, it was crazy the way that grass came up too. Like, I mean, you're talking like 12 foot. Like, it was high grass, and I figured there had to be bass in there, but I just couldn't make those areas work. I did have some success on day one, or on practice day one, was like fishing like the inside of it, and I think I was finding fish on like beds, like around like, I don't know, 5 feet. I was dragging things around. I was able to find fish that way, but didn't help me during the actual tournament at all.
Right.
So, all right. So
I found a lot right on the walls, those stone walls along the water.
Yeah.
Pretty much bounced them off the wall into the water, and they were right there at the base of the walls.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, because that's when I caught one of mine on day two. Like I saw a rock, it was real close to the wall. I'm like, I'm just gonna hit that, and then as soon as it hit the wall, bounced in the water, I'm like, oh shit, there's a fish on there, and he pulled it up there. It was like I was probably just as shocked as he was when he bit into it.
Right.
So yeah, I talked to you guys because we launched out the launch a few times together, or close to around the time together. Day one, or the end of day Friday, or the end of practice on Friday, I think I talked to you, John, and we were talking a little about it. And he's like, "Oh, Judy thinks she has it. Judy has it figured out."
Sure.
She's like, he said that you were like uber confident that you had it figured out, and then you didn't have it figured out on day one, did you?
I had nothing figured out. It's funny because after day two, when I was getting ready for the tournament, and then when Chad at the captain's meeting said one fish gets you to the national championship, I said, you know what? I'm going for one fish. I'm just going to go have a good time. And then I called Catherine Field, and she was like talking me off the ledge, because I was like, I have no plan. I have a couple spots. I have nothing with a bunch of fish. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to go have fun and just go fishing. Yeah. And that's what I said Saturday and Sunday. I said, you know what? I have no expectations. I had told Jody Queen on the water on Thursday, I ran into him and I said, I wanted top 10, just kidding around. And he's like, really? And I said, yeah, but it wasn't serious. I was hoping for back where I usually am, but yeah, it's just, it all came together at the tournament, but I had no expectations. I was not thinking I got this at all.
No. All right, well, let's talk. Since we're already in that area, let's talk about like how and why and how did you fall out of your kayak?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I got to.
So I was on that main channel when we came out of the launch. There was a speedboat and inboard on the other shore, and I had cast it over there, and I got my hook caught up in the ropes on the boat. So I went up next to it, and I had like a metal bar you could hold on to. So I was standing in my kayak, I was holding onto the bar, and I was reaching up trying to get my hook out of the rope. And a wave came and just took my kayak right out from underneath me. And I just went between the boat and the kayak, and I came to the top, and I'm like, wow, what just happened?
The word, Josh, is she was standing in her kayak. That's the key word. I went over and ended up getting the hook out of the rope because I didn't want the people to get their hand caught in it. And I almost flipped out of my kayak, sitting in my kayak, trying to do what she did standing. So pretty sure standing was the problem.
It didn't flip the kayak. It just flipped me. So
Yeah.
my kayak.
So it wasn't a complete disaster.
No.
Okay, yeah. Because sometimes when you flip a kayak, it changes your life dramatically. Like
Yes.
now you spend the next month. First, safety is obviously the most important thing. But then after you realize you're safe, you're okay, and you look at all your lost belongings, you realize, oh wow, there went like $5,000-$6,000 to the bottom of the lake, never to be seen again until some 8-year-old drags an egg rig across the bottom and pulls up your fishing pole.
Yeah.
Right.
So besides that, like what else was your day one like? I mean, because to me, like day one was the worst day of my fishing career, if you want to call it a career. But that was like the day that like I was humbled. I felt humiliated. My confidence was zapped from me. Like at the end of day one, tournament wise, like I got back to the boat ramp, and I didn't know if I was going to fish day two. Like I was ready to go home. I was over it because I had no plan. I had nothing to go on. I didn't know. Like to me, that lake seemed like you had to have like some kind of like level of experience, because like if you're plan A, plan B went to shit, you're like I was spun. I'm like I'm moving, like making these big movements, 3-4 miles just to go see if fish are on beds over there, knowing damn well that there's not, because I'm watching the boat guys snag them off one by one. It's like, I don't even know why I'm over here. I left over here thinking that there's gonna be some miracle over here, but there's never any miracles in fishing. It's just the way it is. And I got there, and then I made another 4-mile trek back, or whatever. I moved so much that day. I was exhausted. I was hungry. I was defeated. All I wanted to do was go home, and it took like I had to like dig deep and like, all right, you're gonna fish Sunday just so you can gain somewhat of your self-respect back before you go home, because you can't go home and see your wife like this. You're gonna make her mad.
Well, my feelings on what you just said is I had 4 different types of areas that I caught fish in, and they were just, I'm not going to say they were easy to catch, but like say those steep rock outcroppings that went down into the water, and then it was really deep water right after that. I caught 2 largies on 3 casts, and then I just left it alone. I said, that's a good spot. Go find something else that produces. And then I just moved down just a short ways. And same thing, I caught fish on steep outcroppings, moved from there. Then I went down to offshore reefy area. And there goes my voice. And then first cast, I caught a largie on the edge of the weed line, and that's where I started out on Sunday. It was right there. And then I had docks. So I had 4 different places and beds. And I had 4 different places that were producing fish.
Okay, now did you catch them kind of like post spawn, you think?
Oh no, I don't know what we were doing. I don't know what the story was on that. The fish that I caught Sunday may have been spawning, but I never saw the beds. Okay. They were underneath docks, up against walls, under vegetation. They were all over the place, but I never was fishing a bed on Sunday the whole day.
That's crazy.
And had their tails all torn up. Not one of them.
Yep.
It's so weird because like most people were catching them on beds, like and like a lot of my fish I felt were, I know, especially like my bigger fish, like their asses were red. They look like they were bedding. I didn't see their bed. I didn't see their bed. The water there, they had that pollen that came in. Then plus one day I had wind, and as soon as those boats get released, when they talk about the washing machine effect, it's true. It is a washing machine.
It was.
That sitter, it's just like the water's moving like this. Water's bouncing off the wall, coming back, throwing you over here, and you're just getting thrown all over the place, and you're trying to, fish these or whatever you're trying to fish. It was a washing machine effect. So like, I never, with the fish I caught, I'm sure there were beds, but I just could never see the beds. But everyone down south, they were catching those gigantic smallmouth. They said they were pulling them off beds. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you guys. I just could not find beds to save my life after day 2. After like all the practice is over, come tournament day, that I just could not find that. And the ones I did find on beds, they were like up north, where outside that ring of whatever you want to call it, but like up north and some of like the I guess a little bit more protected water. But even them, they weren't like like committed to their beds. Like, I don't know if it's because they had their faces ripped off so many times or they were just moving up or what. They wanted nothing to do. And it's a hard thing to commit to, especially when you're already panicking, when you're already like, everything's gone to shit. I'm not catching fish. This dude's already up to 90 something inches. What am I going to do? And you get up there, like it's hard to commit 2 hours to a fish. It doesn't want anything to do with what you're throwing at them.
So you were watching the scoreboard, I take it.
I usually don't until everything goes bad. You know what I mean? Like, because usually, my first spot most of the time kind of produces. You know what I mean? I usually pick spots I can kind of squeeze out a limit, and then once I get a limit, I can start worrying about calling and and really like hitting some of those like what do you call like B water type or BC water type spots and try to win a thing. But like when like 2-3 hours you ain't got a fish, and now you got to make a 30-minute move up north. It's like, well, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna see what's going on in the world, and then until you check your Instagram. No one's messaging you, which means you're not. You check your message, see if your wife messaged you. She doesn't care, and so you're like, I'm gonna see what the score is, and you're like, oh shit, they got 90 what inches? It's just like, and then like everyone like they had like a bunch of people that were already up there. I'm like, how are these people crushing it? I know how to fish. I know what I'm doing somewhat, and so it's like I can't put a fish on the board. So next thing you know, I'm like, oh, I gotta figure something out. And next thing I know, I'm just like exhausting myself for no reason. And I say it's a learning curve, but it happens way too often. I think to people, you know what I mean? Like I think it's one of the when you look at like the difference between like people just coming to sport and like someone like Jody Queen or something like that. It's like it's probably the mind game, the mental part of this game that really sets people apart because everyone has bad days, but not everyone can recover from the bad day or not everyone can recover from those bad moments like some other people can. Like me, maybe I'm still learning that part because when it gets bad, like you can tell like I'm moving. I'm exhausted. You can tell. I'm like, you'll see me going across the lake, going up and down, north, south, east, west, whatever. Just trying to figure it out, and and not really fishing as much as I am moving. That's how you can tell I'm really spun out and like desperate for like some fish attention.
Yeah,
it's easy to get in a death spiral. I started doing that Sunday morning. Like I couldn't find anything, and it's just like, oh man, this is just. And all of a sudden, I hit one spot where I caught a couple fish, and then I started catching a couple more fish, and then I caught a bunch of little ones, and it just at the end I was coming back to the docks, back towards the launch, and I ended up getting an 18 largemouth under those walkways, not the docks themselves, but those like gangplanks that they were under there too, and just random cast under there. I took a couple of casts and I ended up with an 18 largemouth, and that helped me at the end. But I always try to tell myself every cast is a fish, because sometimes you get so used to not catching anything, and then all of a sudden you get a bite and you lose it because you weren't ready.
Yeah.
So I've kind of got into that little mantra of, just you got to be ready every single time, and it can turn around so fast. Our son used bass boats, and he used to tell us all the time, he's cutting so many winning fish like 5 minutes till the end of the tournament, and you just never know when things are just going to light up, and you just got to keep your chin up.
Yeah, Sunday was like I said. Sunday was a completely. I hate it because like Sunday was like it was like night and day. Like Saturday completely skunked. Sunday had really great moments in the tournament. I'm like, oh shit, I'm top 10, and then like I never got out of top 20. I'm like, well, you know what you're doing. Why didn't you just do this yesterday? And like what I did was like I just fished. You know what I mean? It's like like I knew it was gonna be a tough day because like if Saturday was tough. Go ahead and expect Sunday to be tough. And if it's not, well, hell yeah. But, you can't ever, I'm not going to expect it to be better. So, I just stopped and I just fit. And, like, I think I was, like, one of my problems, like, slow fishing is that, like, there's a lot of times you feel like, for me, like, I like to fish fast. You feel like you're wasting your time. Like, if I'm throwing a Ned rig, like, I'm missing out on a chatterbait bite. You know what I mean? Or so, I don't know why my brain goes to that, but it goes to that. It's just like, oh, why can't you just fish, a Ned rig for an hour and get that one bite, because that one bite you got with the Ned rigs better than that 2 hours you didn't get shit with the chatterbait.
Right.
And that was kind of like you'll be surprised like what I probably learned at this tournament for my next tournament. It's like you'll see me out there slinging a Ned rig for 2-3 hours, trying to get a limit if things get bad. And I think it was like one of the biggest things was like slow down and just fish. Like you can move all you want, but if you're not going to do things right, if you're not going to get there and present the proper, presentation or whatever, retrieval, whatever, you're not gonna be like the other spot's not gonna produce any better than this spot. If the bite's not on, if it's not like a pre-spawn hungry ass fish bite, it's not going to change from like spot to spot. I don't believe for the most part, and especially if you're just going to go to you can go to another spot and just do the same thing you were doing at the spot that you had no success at. You think you're going to take something over there. I mean, it's just weird the way our brain works sometimes. But like fishing slow and just doing the painful, dirty things and really picking that spot apart. And then it's funny. Like once you catch a fish or two, you're like, how did I do that? And you're like, well, they must be sitting here for some reason. And then next thing you know, you got a limit. You're like, oh, look at that. Learning just occurred. You know what I mean? It's crazy how it works sometimes, but you really got to get out of your head. And sometimes you just got to fish.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
All right. So
we fish pretty slow anyway. We're big Cinco fishermen.
Very slow.
This one you could watch paint dry when you're watching him fish.
I'll cast to the same spot if it's juicy and tasty looking. I will just saturate that spot with whether it's a Cinco, a Ned rig, just whatever. So I am so slow, and if I think there's a fish in there, I'll stay there till I get it. I'm just like, and like you said earlier, I don't do as well with the speed fishing. I pick spots, and I really, really just take care of that spot.
Yeah,
that's my deal.
Well, obviously, it's working for you.
Yep.
How'd you feel going to day two? Like, I mean, obviously, you're the champ on day two. So compared to day one, like, how'd you feel day two? Did you feel like, I mean, your day one wasn't that bad either. So
it was respectable. Day one, I was very happy. Ninth place, I was super happy with ninth place. I was like, I could go home and just lay an egg on Sunday and be perfectly happy and bragged to all my friends at the golf course, and I was all set. I was good. But the way I started it was that offshore reef, and all I had caught was one fish there, but it looked so good. There was a tight weed line all the way around it. There were weeds coming up 4 feet off the bottom. It was anywhere from 10 to 16 feet deep. And I'm like, there's fish in there. I know there's fish in there. And there wasn't any. And so then I just started hopping around after that. I did a couple laps around my islands. Nothing was going on there. And then I said, well, I caught a fish on the docks yesterday. I'll go over there. And that's where I stayed my first fish didn't come till 9 a.m. in the morning Sunday. And then I went over to those docks, and then I rounded the corner, and there was a kayaker in front of me. There was a bass boat in front of him. And the guy in the kayak was fishing super slow like I do, caught 2 fish in front of me. And I'm like, it's going to be a long day. But it turned out pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, was the bite big for you at first, or was it something you had to like? I mean, to me, it was a tough day. Also, like just because I mean, like people are pulling all those fish off those beds, and they're taking the weigh-ins, and to never be seen again. Who knows what those fish do after a big boat weigh-in?
Right.
I mean, so to me, it's just like the decision. You had to really consider that when you're out there fishing. It's like, and like as far as like where you want to like spend your time at.
Yep.
Did that cross your mind? Like, I mean, did that cross your mind a lot? Like, I mean, like you're spending a lot of time, especially when you're fishing slow. You know what I mean? It's like every decision you make is like very important. Like, you're taking 2 hours off your fishing time because you only got 8 of them.
Right. Well, the way like I said earlier, I had like 4 different distinctively different spots that produce fish during pre-fishing. And I was mostly using a Ned rig during that time, but I also tried a chatterbait because I've never caught a fish on a chatterbait, a bass. I've caught lots of pickerel, but never on a chatterbait. And I'm like, I gotta get this thing down because everybody's raving about it. But that didn't work. Top water wasn't working. And I said, well, all I had was the docks. So the docks turned out to be really good for me because also Judy said the gangplanks were holding fish. And I figured those docks at the end, you couldn't cast under them. You couldn't skip under them. There was no room. And I figured like those were little bass hotels and they were holding a lot of bass that you couldn't get to. So I think those bass were replenishing the wall and the spots.
Yeah. I wonder if a lot of people, because obviously that time of year, everyone's thinking, oh, they're spawning. Well, we're going to go to the spawning flats. We're going to find places where they spawn. I haven't talked to a lot of people who did offshore fishing down at Kendall. And I wonder if that was, it's juicy and it's exciting to think about like catching fish on beds. If that was kind of like, I mean, obviously it helps some people, but if it was like a curse for some, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's like trying to find those fish on beds. with everything that was going on. But then like someone just being a little bit, like I'm gonna go try offshore. And I wonder if they found, like some of those spots that you were saying, they were kind of like reproducing or resetting whatever it is, and that's that could have been like the game changer for a lot of people.
Right.
You get fixated sometimes. You get fixated. I mean, like, why wouldn't you want to go fish beds? I mean, like, you're looking, especially some of the fish that I did see on beds. I'm like, that is the biggest smallmouth I ever seen, just sitting there looking for something. I remember one, like, I hit him 3 times, and each time I hit him, he'd do like a backflip, a somersault, and get back in like fighting position, like ready to do battle. And I'm like, but he wouldn't commit to it. But still, at the same time, I'm like, that's a big fish. That would do wonders for my score if I was to hook that right now.
Right.
I fished a tournament up on Great Pond with Maniac Anglers a couple weeks ago, and I had never really bed fished, and I came on a shore that was just absolutely loaded with beds, and I caught a couple smallies off of that. That's the first time I've ever really bed fished. But then I was using a Ned rig out in the deeper and shallower spots, and I was getting bass out there. So I knew that there was fish on the beds, but there was also fish that were still out deep, and that really helped me in this tournament because I didn't just concentrate on beds. Like I said, I didn't bed fish because I knew they were all going to get picked off, and then I just get frustrated. So fishing that tournament up on Great Pond in Maine really helped how to figure out this candlewood.
Yeah, I was kind of upset myself, because I have, this is like my 176th episode, or whatever. So I've talked to a lot of great anglers on the show, and one of my episodes was about spring fishing, the pre-spawn, spawn, and post-spawn. And I was talking to a guy, and he's a big educator, like he does all the YouTube channel, whatever, and everyone knows him, and like I have one of the smartest minds in my show, and we were talking about that, like fish on beds and how challenging it can be. He's like, yeah, why don't you just turn around and fish the fish, and fish for the fish that are not on beds? It's like, he's like, the lake's big, the fish are vast. There's more fish in that lake than you'll ever know, and they don't all like. If you only see 2 fish spawning, there's probably 1,000 fish behind you not spawning. Right. Like, why are you focusing on those when like you just turn around and start fishing the other way and go find those fish? If it's that, I mean, it's easier said than done, but still, like like when I was driving home, I'm like, and I was like thinking, like, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? And it's like, why didn't I just turn around and fish the other fish? Like, why didn't I just like go out there and like, but maybe it's offshore or whatever I wanted to do, but like there's fish everywhere. Like, why were you so focused on the beds?
Because you could see them, and it's really hard. If you've seen that fish on a bed and you know how big that fish is, and you know how bad you need that fish in your bag, it's really hard as an angler to walk away from that. It's not easy.
You want to hear the irony, John? Like a week before that, I had another tournament on Otisco Lake up here in New York, and my first morning spot, I had real success in this cove, and I'm like, and granted it was cold that morning, so it was like, you wanted to wait until the sun heated up because it was still like in the 30s or 40s, and the water temps was like in the low 50s, so the fish weren't necessarily like on beds or anything, but they were acting weird because we had a few heat spells. But I go to my spot, I still can't see anything, so I'm moving back. But I'm like, I'm gonna keep coming back here because as soon as that sun comes up and I can see, there's gonna be fish everywhere. And so I came back finally when the sun was up around like 8, 9, and my fish are everywhere. I got winning fish all around me. They're not necessarily on bed, but it looks like they're on beds, but they're probably not. But I'm throwing everything I can at them, and nothing's happening. But I refuse to leave that spot because it was hard for me to go back to where I was catching. I caught 2 fish a little bit like offshore on like the outside grass line, like fishing one of those heavy chatterbaits like slowly across the bottom. And I caught 2 decent sized fish, but I kept going back to the spot thinking that these fish were going to turn on because I saw them, and like I was so nervous I wouldn't leave. I would only go like 100 feet away to fish the outside grass line, but then run back before anyone else could get there because I thought those fish were mine. But because I could see them, because I knew their size, I was so dedicated to those fish. And it probably took until like 1 o'clock, an hour before last cast, for those fish were to finally turn on. But the time I wasted on them, because like you said, it's like you see them and it's hard to leave them.
It is.
But who knows what I could have done if I would have stuck with the pattern that worked. If I would have just took a little chance and like, granted, I'm not shitting. Like I'm shit you not. Like my winning fish were all in front of me. It was just amazing how many fish were around me because they were all moving up shallow to get warm. I believe is what they were doing. Either that or they were getting ready to move up to beds. But still, I wasted probably 4 hours of the day trying to catch fish that wanted nothing to do with it. And if someone else would have came in, I mean, like when you throw enough stuff at them, you realize they just don't want anything. It doesn't matter what Steve from downtown, like when he gets here, he's probably gonna have the same trouble I'm having. But
Right.
there's my bite out there. It's just weird, like how you just get fixated on these targets that just you're not gonna win. You're not gonna win fishing like that. It's madness. I'm sure there's a quote that says, like the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. But here we are doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And then, when you're sitting at the award ceremony and someone wins with 80 inches, it's like I could have beat that guy if I just
stuck to the plan.
Stuck to a plan.
Yeah.
Stuck to the plan, John. But I didn't.
Yep.
But I mean, but you're right. That was like some of the things we're having Candlewood. I wish it's just weird, all these lessons you learn in fishing, and then come game day, you forget all about them.
Yep.
You don't apply them, and then you do that long drive home yelling at yourself because you know better. You know better, but I know we're just creatures of habit. Sometimes we just go back to what we think works.
Right.
When we drive home, we're not talking to ourselves, we're talking to each other. And we will break down a tournament for a week after a tournament. And it's all we talk about. And we drive our kids nuts. We'll talk about, what did you do over there? What was your favorite moment? What was the worst moment? And it's just like, we don't ever stop. It is pathetic.
It is pathetic.
It's fun because we learn from each other, but I don't know. We both love it. And it's a great little midlife crisis.
Right. And well, that's this because I guess KBF doesn't turn off their standings like they used to back in the past, like an hour prior to the end of the turn, or whatever, to last cast. Like they'll turn them off. So I didn't know that, but I guess you can track all the way to the end. But when you guys get back to the boat launch on day 2, what was that conversation like? We're sitting at first, sitting at 6th place. I mean, that'd be pretty exciting to see each other in the top 10. To me, that's like the perfect thing because you don't want to be like, one of you guys being first and the other person being like 60th.
Right.
That's a rough card ride home. That's a conversation I don't want to have with my wife. And like it's one thing to beat your wife or significant other, but to beat them that bad, I don't know. My wife, whether she won or didn't win, like I'd give my ear. I get it. You know what I mean? 'Cause my wife is that competitive. She's one of the most competitive people I know, and it scares me.
Well, Judy is the least competitive person I've known for 37 years of my marriage to her. And bass fishing has turned her into an animal. She's like a professional sports person, like trash. She's awful. She's crazy. And it's so fun to watch her like this because she used to say to me, is everything a competition? Do you have to be so competitive with everything? Because I'm the one who's always been super competitive about everything. Like I drank my drink quicker than you did or something stupid like that. But she's turned into an animal.
I let everybody else win everything. But it was fun after we got off the water on day 2, but I was really nervous until everybody submitted pictures because you don't know who's sandbagging.
Right.
The worst one, though, is he won on the Charles River last year for one of the KBF trails, and I had a horrible day, and I had to wait for him. He went so far down the river. He went through, he caught fish in 4 different towns, and he calls me. He's like, I'm about an hour and a half down the river, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It was about 90 degrees. I wasn't catching anything all day, and he ends up winning the tournament. So I was happy for him, but that was a long day. Yeah, but we always support each other. It's
always.
And when we're just fun fishing, there's days where I'm just, getting 20, 21-inch bass and he's just grumbling over there because he can't catch anything. And then another day he'll be doing it and I'll be like, I can't catch anything, but I can. So it goes back and forth, but we just have a blast doing it.
We do.
And what about your leisure fishing? Do you guys go out by yourselves? Do you guys go out together? You got the truck that can carry both kayaks. If my wife was to get into sport, I'd have to buy another truck because she's, because we wouldn't. I'm telling you, me and my wife wouldn't fish together that much. We might travel on road trips together, but we would not on a Monday. We're both gonna go fishing together because we couldn't do it. We're just that competitive. But what about you guys? Are you guys how many? You guys in the water weekly, even when you're not doing tournaments or what?
There is no leisure fishing for the whole summer. So from April all the way up until November, we have the monthly challenges that I love. Okay. I absolutely love those. And that just feeds my competitiveness. And before I'm talking to you, I was out, I looked at a job, and then I spent the rest of the day on a lake. And I was just trying to get my monthly numbers up because I'm in 4th place and I'm not used to that. So I really wanted to get a couple of big fish today, and I didn't get them. And I told my son what I got. I got like 7 or 8 fish between 14 and 17 inches. And he goes, "Dad, that's what most people catch." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not most people." And yeah, we don't really leisure fish anymore. It's bass fishing 24/7, and it goes from April all the way up to November, and it's just a blast. I love it. Love it.
Well, cool. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Judy.
Oh, if I go by myself, like I started out in a Sun Dolphin, and it fits inside my RAV4. So if I want to go by myself, I basically throw my RAV4 in the car and I just go, because I have
You throw a RAV4 in your car?
My Sun Dolphin in the RAV4.
Yes.
And I'll go tootle around in that because I fished in that for years, and I just go after work a lot of days and just stop at a little pond and catch some fish. But I can throw my top water in the back of a pickup truck and take it by myself. But for the most part, we go together. And he goes every day. It's pathetic. He'll call me at work. "Oh yeah, I'm over on this lake. Oh, I'm over here. I'm on my 2nd lake of the day. I just caught a 20." And I'm like, "You just stink."
And then she tells me she's to send her pictures of big fish I catch during the day. But then when I send it to her, I hear about it when she comes home. "Don't send me pictures at work. Blah, 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 blah." It's like, "I want to see everything that you catch." So it's fun.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll wrap this thing up soon, guys. What is your guys' goal, like, going into like this? Like, are you guys like just fishing KBS? Are you fishing as many tournaments as you can? Like, what's the goal of the year for you guys? Because like me, I'm all over the place. I'll fish a KBF event. I'll fish a Hobie event. I'll fish my local events. I'm running a local series here. If there's another local event and I don't have anything else going, I'll go to that. Like, I don't have like any method to my madness. I'm not chasing the angler of the year. I'm just like, if I can fish a tournament, I'll fish a tournament. Like, I'm only here to cash checks. That's my goal. Is to make this as profitable as I can, so I can quit stealing from my wife's piggy bank. So that's my goal with so far with my season. Next year I might change it up, but this year it's just all about get better, fish as many tournaments as you can, and let's see where we are at the end of 2021.
Yeah.
We do New Hampshire kayak fishing. We do Maine kayak anglers, KBF elite. We did some KBBT last year. We'll probably do some of that this year, but we'll go to the national championship with KBF. The local, trail tournaments that we do with our own trails, those are just fun, and you're getting together with the people, and that's very competitive because, you get your points and stuff like that, but it's just fun getting on all the different lakes. Like, we do the big tournaments, which we really like, but you make a weekend out of it. That's our vacations now. Like, before we used to go, on different kind of vacations. Now it's pretty much, what tournament are we going to do? And, let's take a few days off. Like, we'll be out on the Hobie event on Champlain. It took a week. So we'll do quite a few days of pre-fishing there.
Yep.
Messalonsky next week. Then Winnie, I'm directing kind of the elite tournament with Jason and Kenwood.
Okay.
We'll be up there for that. But it's just really getting on as much water as we can, and you learn every time you go out. You learn something.
Yeah.
You don't catch fish. You're talking to the turtles and the loons and the people, and it's just so much fun. It's just Yeah.
Well, so what do you think? I'm doing Lake Champlain too. What do you guys think about that lake? Like, it's hard for me to break down a lake that big because it's just like it has so much to offer, and it's just so big and vast. It's like, how much water can I really cover? Do I want to just break it down, pick a few spots, and just live and die on those spots that I pick, or what? I mean, it's just a gigantic body of water that has so much to offer people. I mean, like, it is gigantic smallmouth, giant largemouth. It's got a frog bite. It's got an offshore bite. It's got
right.
What are we gonna do, John? It's so big.
Well, I'm mostly like a dirty pond fisherman. That's that's what I'm really good at, is dirty, nasty water. So when we go to big lakes, like even Cayuga Lake out in New York, I didn't have a clue. We had half of a day to pre-fish. I think I caught one fish, and it wasn't anything to brag about. And Judy didn't catch anything. I saw guys on that railroad bridge that everybody saw on YouTube, so I definitely wasn't alone. And I just stayed on that bridge for the whole day. And the following day, it was after the tournament. It was the post day, and we caught fish out in the middle, which is what I wanted to do, was, use jigs and catch fish out in the middle of the lake, which I've never really done before on a big lake like that. So it's kind of cool. So like Champlain is very similar. It's going to be a huge body of water, something I'm not used to. Yeah, we're going after bass, but it's a totally different environment, and it's just fun to just keep on, putting some weapons in your arsenal.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, and Florida, we went to Florida this winter, and I sucked it up big time bad. After all the days, I think it was 3 days of pre-fishing. On the third day, I had 5 fish. I was like, okay, every day I'm getting better. I'll be able to put some fish down on the board. I didn't do well at all. It's just not a dirty pond where we were. It's just totally different fishing. Same animal, but just totally different environment.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on the show. It was nice meeting you guys. I kind of met you guys at KU a little bit, but I think I really got to talk to you guys at the launch and stuff at Candlewood. So that's probably like my favorite part. Like, it's been a while since I've done a KBF event. Obviously, COVID last year, I just didn't feel like traveling that much last year because I'm in New York, and so everywhere I went, it was like coming back would have been harder. Right. So I didn't do a lot of traveling last year. So this year, I'm finally getting out, and I'm like, had a great time. Like I thought the Candlewood event was ran really good. All things considered, what those poor directors had to put up with as far as like what the state and the towns were doing. I thought everyone did a great job, and the captain's meeting and the award ceremonies, I thought they were awesome. I thought Chad, Jason Gardner, and everyone did an incredible job, and I enjoyed the whole damn thing. Like just meeting everyone, meeting you guys. It's why I love this sport so much.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely the people. We've met so many cool people, and like Trisha Angelini, I've run into her in so many tournaments. We go out for dinner if we're at the same tournaments and stuff, and it's just such a great bunch of people.
Yeah. All right. Well, you two have a good night. I gotta get up for a tournament at whatever dark 30. So I gotta get out of here and go to bed. But I look forward to seeing you guys again. Obviously, I'm gonna see you guys in Champlain here in the next few weeks. But you guys have a good night. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.
All right. Very good. Thank you.
All right.